water hits the Gulf Stream, will it change that cycle?
Yeah, so the whole day after tomorrow scenario. Yeah, there is like a grain of truth in that idea that there are theories and models that show that as you melt ice off Greenland, it freshens the North Atlantic Ocean, and that acts to sort of slow down this ocean circulation in the Atlantic. But everything else about that movie is wrong. I mean, it's not something that can lead to another ice age or really even, all it does is slow down the rate of cooling in the North Atlantic. It doesn't even change the sign of it from cooling to warming in the model projections.
In a documentary that they said that when it changed the cycle of the warm waters, that England wouldn't get the warming effect anymore, and there would be an ice sheet over England and those parts of Europe.
Oh, okay. So he was referring to, I guess there was a documentary that was arguing that the slowing of the circulation could lead to local cooling and perhaps an increase. There is some evidence for that occurring in the paleoclimatic record. If we look at model projections for the next century, and these models do show some of this effect of a slowing of the ocean circulation due to the melting of ice on Greenland. None of the models actually show even a localized cooling, let alone a growth of ice or anything in Western England.
The amount of sea ice constantly decreasing, or is sometimes it increases?
Well, you can look at, if you look at, say, the sea ice curve here, you can see that there are some years that have more sea ice and some years that have less sea ice. So if you compare these 2 years, there was actually an increase in sea ice coverage there. And some of that is just reflecting the natural cycles within the Earth. But clearly, if you look at the longer time scales where these global warming-induced changes really dominate, you see that there's been a steady decline in the Arctic sea ice over the last 20 years.
Because in September 2007, there was a maximum record of sea ice.
Right, or a minimum, yeah. That's right, that's what this is showing right here. And you can see almost a third of the sea ice coverage that was present in 2006 was gone by 2007. Okay, so what does this mean? What does this mean for South Florida? There's a group called the Scientists on the Miami-Dade Climate Change Task Force, and this is a statement from that group regarding sea level rise. And basically they're acknowledging that these changes that are being seen in the Arctic and Greenland, that there will likely be, they're suggesting a sea level rise of at least 1.5 feet over the next 50 years, and possibly as much as 3 to 5 feet by the end of the century. Now, I'm not affiliated with this group at all, so I'm not here trying to promote their work. But these are things that as a South Floridian, do make me nervous. A 1.5 foot sea level rise over the next 50 years would be a very dramatic change. And 3 to 5 feet, to give you some idea of what these changes look like. And again, this is another point where I think this earlier statement from the 1978 report about our ignorance, our understanding of these processes of how the Greenland ice sheet can melt and rapidly run off into the ocean are so poor that we don't even try to represent them in models yet. And so this is a place where we do have a great deal of ignorance, and there certainly is a possibility that the IPCC projections of sea level rise are underestimates, and it would be very difficult for me to try to refute these projections that are being put forth by the Miami-Dade Climate Change Task Force. And just for those of us who live in South Florida, this is what Florida looks like. This is a color-enhanced satellite map, and basically anywhere that's blue is ocean, anywhere that's colored is land. This is what it looks like now. This is what South Florida would look like with a 2-foot sea level rise, and just these are some points of interest. Here's Cape Sable. TP stands for the Turkey Point Nuclear Reactor, and so you can see, you can drive out there now. If we had a 2-foot rise in sea level, you'd need to at least take a bridge to Turkey Point. If you have a 3-foot rise in sea level, you need to take a boat to get to Turkey Point. You have a 4-foot rise in sea level, you need to take a boat to get to most of Miami-Dade County. And these are images that are provided to me by Dr. Hal Wallace at the UM Geology Department.
What's the MHHW equal to?
This stands for the mean high water, which refers to the highest tide at basically the spring high tide, so the time of the year when the high tide is highest. So this is the maximum sea level that results from the orbital changes.
How come it affects the southern sediment more than, let's say, the water coming in from South Beach, like over the land that way?
I'm sorry, how come it affects?
It looks like the whole South Thames gets flooded.
Oh,
But
yeah.
how come it doesn't come in like straight in from the Atlantic?
Well, there's an ancient coral reef along here that provides higher elevation for this portion of Miami-Dade County than people living farther out west. So if you live, along the Gables and the South Miami through Pinecrest and Palmetto Bay, those areas tend to be a little bit higher than even if you go further out west, because of they're on top of this ancient coral reef. Okay, and thank you, and I'm happy to take any more questions. And there's also, if you're interested, there's a very good website that's very easy to remember its name, realclimate.org. And if you're looking for good, solid information about climate change on topical issues, that's a very good place to go. Thank you.